The original 1973 Wicker Man is one of the moodiest, weirdest, most atmospheric movies ever made. It's often considered not only one of the best horror films, but one of the best films of all time. If you've never seen the original, I give it my highest recommendation. It's an incredibly creepy film with a heavy focus on organized religion and paganism. However, I'm not here to talk about the original. I'm here to talk about the god-awful 2006 remake. The remake is one of the sloppiest, dumbest movies I've ever seen. As a horror film, it fails in every possible way. As a comedy, however, it is gold. The Wicker Man is a 2006 horror unintentional comedy from director Neil Labute. If you're looking for a good movie, look elsewhere. If you're looking for a movie that crosses that magical line of so bad it's good, then look no further.
What is it? What's wrong, sister?
The movie opens with motorcycle cop Edward Malice. A kid throws her doll into the road, so he pulls the car over to return it. So why exactly is this kid not sitting in the passenger seat? I'm gonna say probably so the scene can play out much more conveniently on one side of the car. And the little asshole kid throws her doll out into the road and causes this to happen. You know, she has no one to blame but herself. Malice tries to break in to save them, but the car explodes and knocks him into the titles. Sometime later, he's on a leave of absence from his job. A female cop brings him some get-well letters and some cards from work. So nobody in his precinct knows how to mail a letter? The female cop sits down, and we're treated to awkward moments of Malice staring blankly into space. Acting! The cop tells him that they never found the bodies of the girls in the car crash. Malice gets a letter from Willow, his ex-fiancée. She tells him she now resides in a small town called Summersisle. Her daughter Rowan's missing, and since he's a cop, she wants him to come to the island and find her. He takes a letter to the police station and talks to one of his friends.
Wow. The plot thickens. Didn't even know you had a plot.
No kidding.
Oh, the irony of that statement.
Give her a call.
I already tried that, but guess what? There's no phone service on Summersisle.
So the island has no phones, but they have a website where you can order things? Malice takes a ferry out. Man, the traffic on this boat is brutal. He gets to a port where he bribes this guy to fly him to Summersisle. They fly over the hidden Nazi forest to the island of Summersisle. When he arrives on the island, he runs into a bunch of people who tell him that he's not allowed to be there.
You'll need a good talking to.
What's in the bag? A shark or something?
Oh yes, because when I see a bunch of people holding a wriggling burlap sack, the first thing I think of is shark. He goes to the local inn and, hello, sir or madam.
I'm Sister Beach, yes. And you're that officer from California?
So he just got off the plane, walked into town, and already they know about him being there. Any red flags going off yet, officer?
Now, why would you go and do a thing like that?
Sorry, I'm allergic.
He gets a place to stay for the night and runs into his ex-fiancée, Willow. She gives him a note telling him to meet up with her later. Throughout the entire film, Willow looks and acts completely baked.
If you've grown up around it, it's one thing, but it's...
She explains why she left and came back to where she grew up. Good God, she has some gigantic feet. Malice is in his room unpacking when he overhears the women talking.
Excuse me. Did someone unpack my bag? Because I'm missing some tapes.
I wouldn't know about that.
They're called Everything's Okay.
Good.
So these women who may want to kill him don't steal his EpiPens, they steal his self-help tapes. He goes to bed and has a dream about something he imagined earlier in the film. He wakes up from his boring nightmare and takes his pills. He sees a girl running outside and chases after her. I don't think it's such a good idea to go out in the wilderness at night after you just took some sleeping pills. He follows the girl into the barn, but finds nothing but pigeons and apples. The floor gives way and he's almost impaled in the tools below. Now who stores their pitchforks like that? What is this, Prince of Persia? And now the J.J. Abrams directed portion of the film. Malice is trying to enjoy some honey with his breakfast, but Sister Honey informs him they're all out. Malice goes to the Employee of the Month wall to see that one of the pictures is missing.
What are these? Festivals of some kind? Or...
That's right. Our harvest festival, we have one the end of each autumn, and then the festival of fertility, too, of course. But that's too sacred.
Oh, great. Now I have a vision of Sister Beach during the Festival of Fertility stuck in my head. Malice goes outside to talk to Sister Honey. You know, there's nothing more attractive than a woman who can cut her own firewood.
Where's that?
Up the hill and through the woods.
No, that's the way to grandmother's house.
When you leave, will you take me with you?
I'm pretty sure if Sister Honey looked like this Sister Honey, he would have left the island with her that instant. Malice heads off into the woods. So if the Festival of Fertility is in a few days, how is it that all of these girls are pregnant? It's a yearly event, so shouldn't they have already had their children roughly 3 months ago?
Will you tell us what man represents in his purest form?
Yes.
Phallic symbol, phallic symbol.
Now get him to say penis, penis.
How dare you stand there?
With your gigantic phallus. He asks the class if they know Rowan. Who made that log cabin? It is very impressive. He opens the only empty desk in the room and a boo scare flies out. Malice goes through the class roster and finds Rowan's name. Malice gets Sister Rose to explain what happened to Rowan.
She'll burn to death.
What? What'd you just say?
Precisely what I meant to. She burned to death.
He goes to Rowan's grave and runs into Willow.
But they put it there. I didn't.
Who's that?
Who, the crows?
I don't know. Whoever's...
Could you please finish a sentence?
I know that this seems... It's not much now, but they seem to blame her for all... They think I'm too proud or that I...
Okay, exactly how many mushrooms are you on? Willow then reveals a twist that the audience figured out hours ago.
No, I don't know. I do not know that our daughter is going to be okay.
He sees the captain coming in, so he goes out to see if he can use his radio. He gets there, and no one's around. He thinks he sees Rowan underwater, but of course he's just dreaming. Malice swims out to the plane, only to find it's been sabotaged. Malice is waiting outside of Dr. Moss's house, and oh my god, they cloned Kenny! He breaks into her lab and finds a bunch of fetuses in jars. Searching some more, he conveniently finds the missing harvest photo of Rowan Woodward. Malice confronts Willow.
What the hell is this?
It's a picture.
Yes, I know it's a picture. Malice is heading to see Sister Summersisle, but somehow manages to ride into a field of bees. You know, instead of running into the bees, why not turn around and go back the way you came? You know, where there are no bees. So after being stung about a bazillion times, he has another flashback, and then he wakes up in Sister Summersisle's house. The doctor gave him some old world treatment to save him. He goes outside to talk to Sister Summersisle. These girls are supposed to be Sister Summersisle's protectors? Two pretty waifs? Wouldn't she be safer with a couple of linebacker-sized girls like, oh, I don't know, Sister Beach? Malice chews out Sister Summersisle and leaves. Although it's kind of hard to look tough riding away on a girl's bike. Maybe he can ring the bell while he's at it. Malice digs up the grave, but surprise, it's empty. He hears some crying in the flooded crypt, so he goes to investigate and is locked inside. He stays locked up in there all night, and of course has another nightmare. Ooh, her name is Forrest. So the female cop is in on this too. What? The next day, Willow rescues Malice. He seems to have a lot of energy for somebody who was treading water all night. And here's where Malice loses his fucking mind for the rest of the movie.
Tell me!
Yes, I think yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I don't know!
He breaks into Summersisle's house and sees this nonsense. A guy with a bunch of bee stings. A woman covered in bees. What does this have to do with anything? Malice runs into Sister Rose.
Get off the bike. Step away from the bike. Take your stupid mask.
He heads into town, terrorizes small children, and screams at everyone.
You have my permission to stay out of the fucking way!
So after kicking in some doors and completely losing his shit, he runs around, and for some reason, this part is supposed to be scary. Did they forget to add in some CGI or something? Malice heads back to the inn to confront Sister Beach, and cinematic history is born. Sister Summersisle puts on her Braveheart makeup to deliver a speech to her followers. Sister Honey attacks Malice, and he kicks her into the wall. Malice dons a bear suit to sneak into the festival. Oh great, it's a huge furry convention. If I see a unicorn fucking Pikachu, I'm turning this thing off! Malice sees Rowan tied up on top of the hill. No joke I can come up with is funnier than what happens next. Academy Award-winning actor Nicolas Cage punches out a woman while wearing a bear costume. I wonder if this is how Rowan sees this. He rescues Rowan and they chase after him. So now, all of a sudden, even though they're miles from the nearest cell tower, he gets a phone call. Rowan runs off and Malice chases her right into all the villagers. They explain he was just a pawn in this whole game. They brought him to the island to be sacrificed so that next year's crops will be bountiful.
Killing me won't bring back your goddamn honey!
But I know it will.
They capture him and break his legs so he can't get away. This is hilarious.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Open my eyes! My eyes! Ah! Ah!
These CGI bees are terrible. What is this, bee-demic?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Oh my god. They then place him in the giant Wicker Man and sacrifice him to their gods. Aside from the obvious problems with the film, let's take a look at something major that I don't think anyone else covered. If Malice was so important to them as a sacrifice, why did they put him through so many situations where he could have died? He could have been impaled, drowned, or, I don't know, perhaps stung to death by all the bees on the island? That's the other thing. Since he's allergic to bees, why would Willow pick him to impregnate her? If there was a chance that their offspring could have inherited his allergy, wouldn't that have been enough for her to look for a better candidate? Another thing is he's a cop, so he could have died in the line of duty during that 5-year period when Willow was on the island, which he almost did in the beginning of the movie. Also, at the end of the movie, when he was losing his mind, he beat the crap out of some of the women. Why would they risk this? Why wouldn't they just bring him to the island and sedate him until he was ready to be sacrificed? In the original film, there was a clear explanation to this, but in the remake, since they changed the whole crux of the story, they just called it a game and left it at that. Also, the plan wasn't foolproof. Pete, Malice's cop buddy, knew that he was going to Summersisle. The movie was shot in Vancouver, Canada in 45 days for about $40 million. In the original film, the island was called Summer Isle, but the director changed it to Summersisle for the remake because he thought that Summer Isle was too difficult to say. Director Neil Labute has made some good movies in the past, like Your Friends and Neighbors, the Samuel Jackson Screamfest Lakeview Terrace, and the brutal dark comedy In the Company of Men. Nicolas Cage approached Labute with the offer to remake the film. He was a huge fan of the original and wanted to remake it as a tribute to his friend Johnny Ramone, who turned him on to the film. Cage genuinely wanted to make the film scary. In an interview, he said he wanted to make the film so scary, you wake up in your bed at 3 a.m. and go, I can't get that image out of my head. Unfortunately for him, that's true, only it's this image. More recently, though, he's taken the stance that the film was intended to be ridiculous. I simply think he's trying to take some of the heat off himself for having such a huge part of a notoriously bad film. No one intentionally makes a $40 million bad film. No one intended for Showgirls to be bad, but it ended up being a glorious disaster. However, you take something like The Ginger Dead Man, now that is an intentionally bad movie. Aaron Eckhart had a cameo in the beginning. In the original ending, James Franco and Jason Ritter had cameos. The ending they showed in theaters had Willow and Honey going to the mainland looking for some new guys to get them pregnant. In the original, the whole focus of the film was on paganism versus Catholicism. With the remake, they threw that right out the window, and instead made it about men versus women. They had a matriarchal society where the women ruled and the men were drones. In the original, it was about their apple harvest and not honey. As silly as that sounds, it totally works in the original, due to some incredible acting from Edward Woodward and Christopher Lee. Lee said that out of all the movies he's done, The Wicker Man is his best work. plus Britt Ekland was a way hotter Willow. I'll give them credit for the whole bee angle, at least they went all in with it. Everything was in the shape of a honeycomb. The tables, the windows, the rooms, the grass, just about everything that was on the island. One scene in particular I liked was when Malice was helping the workers to pick up some logs. Little did he know that the logs were being used to build the Wicker Man, so he effectively helped to build the vessel that would ultimately kill him. They threw in a few nods to the original. The characters of Edward Malice and Rowan Woodward were an homage to Edward Woodward, who was Sergeant Howie in the original. In the police station, there's a missing poster with a picture of Woodward from the original. The maypole outside the school was there from the original, but it didn't get used. So yes, this is one of the worst remakes and a complete disgrace to the original. It packs none of the tension, suspense, and quality acting that the original does, but that doesn't make it unwatchable. This is a bad movie, make no mistake, but at least you can enjoy it if you look at it from the right perspective. However, no perspective change can make this entertaining. Or this. Or this.